Hello everyone, welcome to the latest episode of Sean's Movie Crusades. My name is Sean Waskrug, and I'm here to review the latest movies that are out in theaters, as well as movies that have come out recently, and any movies that you guys recommend, whether they be current or old school films. Today I am reviewing Mary Poppins Returns, and before we get into that, feel free to give this video a like and share, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel, so that way you guys are kept up to date with all the latest movie reviews. And also head on over to Facebook, and go ahead and find Sean's Movie Crusades on there as well, and give that a follow, so that way you guys stay up to date whenever I post new videos. And you guys can leave your comments on there, whether they be fan questions, comments about the videos, things you want to see on the channel, and basically any movie review requests you guys have. So, now, let's get into our review. Just got back for a little bit ago from seeing Mary Poppins Returns. Now, personally, I'm not a huge Mary Poppins fan. I mean, mainly because for most men, you know, not to make it a big, gender thing, it wasn't something I really watched much as a kid. Now, yeah, I know what it is. I've seen it a few times. I know the songs. You know, you have your Chim Chimmery, Chim Chimmeroo, you have your Spoonful of Sugar, you have your Supercalifragilisticexpialidocious, however the heck you say it. I think I said it mostly correct. And I know the story. I follow the plot. I know all the characters, stuff like that. It just wasn't a movie that I don't consider it a favorite of mine. Now, when I saw that they were making another one, I was like, okay, Disney's kind of remaking everything, so not that surprised by this. But then they casted Emily Blunt as the new Mary Poppins. Now, me personally, I love Emily Blunt. I think she's a phenomenal actress. I think she's easily one of the best acting performances this year in The Quiet Place. So when I heard that she was going to be taking on the role as Mary Poppins, I was like, alright, well, even though I'm not a Mary Poppins fan, I need to see this. I need to see how she does, because Julie Andrews' role as Mary Poppins is an iconic role that people have said no one should touch. And here's Emily Blunt taking on this huge role, and so I had to see how she would do. And we'll get into how she did in it. And then they added Lin-Manuel Miranda from Hamilton to basically play the Dick Van Dyke role, basically. I mean, he's not playing Bert, but he's basically playing... I don't remember this character, but I guess he's playing Bert's apprentice from the first film, Jack. But yeah, he's basically playing the apprentice. I guess there was a kid in that film. I don't really remember, because it's been forever ago since I've seen the first film. But this first movie, or this movie, Mary Poppins Returns, is a direct sequel. But it's basically a reboot, but it takes place 25 years after the original film. So we're still in that kind of old-timey, 1930s, esque London. And basically, where the story goes is you've got the original children from the first film, which is Michael Banks and Jane Banks. Michael Banks is played by Ben Whishaw. Many people might know him as Q from the most recent James Bond films, or people who actually watch, some really good films besides James Bond. He's the voice of Paddington from the Paddington franchise, which have easily been some of the best children's movies that have come out in recent years. And then Jane Banks is played by Emily Mortimer, who I'm a huge fan of. I love her and everything she's in, and I think she's just a delightful actress. But basically, what's going on is the main story is following Michael Banks, and basically he's got 3 children, and his wife passed away in the previous year, and she seemed to be the one that was the adult of the family. She's the one that handled the money, she's the one that kind of handled all the expenses and stuff like that, and Michael was kind of the artist, fun dad type. But basically, over the process of the year that his wife had passed, he hasn't been able to keep up with the expenses and the money, and he took a big loan out from the bank that he works for part-time, which, I'm sorry, if you're a father of 3 kids, you probably shouldn't be working part-time anywhere. You should be working full-time. But anyway, he takes a loan, and he puts up the house as collateral. And he's forgotten, as he says, to have paid the bank back for 3 months, and so now they are coming to repossess the house unless he can come up with the money in 5 days. And so that's kind of where the general story is. And then Jane's kind of there for moral support for the most part and try to help him out because apparently their father had shares of stock, I guess, into the bank, and they need to find the shares so that way they would have enough money to pay off the bank loan so that way they can save the house. And so that's generally the main story going on. And then, of course, you have the 3 children, John, Annabelle, and Georgie, and they are basically 3 children who have basically become the parents. They do have kind of a maid slash nanny named Ellen, played by Julie Walters. But basically, they kind of act mainly Annabelle and John. They basically are acting like the parents. I mean, they do the grocery shopping. They kind of have to make sure the house runs properly because Michael is just not in the right mindset to be a father. He's too busy, kind of in his own world, whether it's mourning over his wife or just kind of doing his own thing. He's just not doing a good job being a father. And then in the process of all this, at their wit's end because they're about to lose the home, Mary Poppins returns, and she's there to basically help out the family and kind of do her own thing. That's basically the general plot. And then, of course, obviously, she takes care of the children. They go on wild and crazy adventures and kind of, puts the family back together again, in a sense. And so that's the general plot of the movie. Now, let's talk about the good in this movie. Because there's a lot of good in this film. It is nowhere perfect, okay? There's a lot of good, but there's also a lot of bad. And to start things off, let's start off with the good. The movie overall is very delightful. It's enchanting, it's very crowd-pleasing, and it's a very fun film. I mean, it's definitely a film that you're going to watch it throughout. You're going to be smiling through it. You're probably going to be happy when you leave the theater. It is a very fun film for the family, and you probably will have a really good time watching it. Another bonus for me is especially when it comes to musicals nowadays, except for La La Land. Usually musicals, it's like the scope or how they shoot it is very tight. So basically what it is like in a musical, it's always like 1 to 5 people that are actually singing and performing the numbers, and then everyone else around them is just kind of minding their own business, doing their own thing. They're not noticing that there are people literally breaking out in a dance number around them, and they're not interacting with the actual dance number, which I always felt was kind of weird because it's like it's not really actually happening then. Because I'm sorry if I see 1 or 5 people breaking out in song and doing a whole dance number, I'm not going to pay attention, mind my own business. I'm going to be watching going, what the heck's going on? And that always bugs me in a lot of musicals, that they try to pretend that this isn't happening. La La Land did a really good job of actually incorporating kind of everyone around them to be a part of the whole thing, whether they just be backup dancers or backup singers. They made it kind of a whole thing. And Mary Poppins Returns does that, and they do it really well. It's kind of that old school musical feel, like the old Disney films, or even old musicals in general, where everyone is involved in musical numbers, and the scope is enlarged to the point where you'll have at some points 30 plus dancers or 30 plus people singing along in this one choreographed sequence. And Rob Marshall, the director, he's the guy who also did Chicago. And that was another one of those movies that was large scoped. He knows how to do musicals. And he does a really good job of that. Like, he definitely incorporates his landscape when he's actually filming these numbers, and everyone is involved. And so it feels like an actual musical instead of like 4 or 5 people just breaking out into song and dancing and everyone just trying to pretend they're not noticing. And so that was something that I actually really noticed and enjoyed about it, is that it felt like that old-timey, old-school musical / Disney movies that we all saw when we were kids. The songs. Now, I liked a lot of them for the most part, but none of them are going to be the original Mary Poppins music. I don't see any of these songs standing the test of time. They are good. They are really good. There's one with Ben Whishaw, and it's probably not going to get talked about a whole lot, where he's actually, looking for the shares in his attic, and he sings a song, and it's basically to him. It's him basically talking to his dead wife about how bad things are going, and he wishes he was there. And it's a very heartfelt song. It's a very sad song. And it's a really good song, and it's probably not going to get enough recognition. But while the songs are decent, like I said, I just watched this like an hour or two ago. For the life of me, besides that song, and then the one you hear in the trailer, I can't remember any of the songs. I can't remember lines from them. I can't remember what they were initially about. They're not remembering here. I am not a fan of Mary Poppins. I barely watch Mary Poppins, but I remember Supercalifragilisticexpialidocious. I remember A Spoonful of Sugar. I remember Chim Chimmery, Chim Chim Chiroo. Let's Go Fly a Kite. I remember those songs. I haven't listened to those songs in probably 20 years, but I remember them. I don't see myself remembering these songs. I don't see this being like Greatest Showman last year, where the soundtrack is going to explode and everyone's going to be singing these songs and remember these songs and playing them in their car and stuff like that. They're good. They're enjoyable in the moment. But I think they're enjoyable in the moment because the dance numbers and the sequences that are being performed while these songs are going on are amazing. There's one in particular about almost halfway through the film, where they bring in that old school animation like they did in the first film. They do like in the first film they jump into a painting and it's a cartoon 2D with them in it world, and this one they jump into basically a bowl. And first off, the sound design of this sequence is amazing because they're on a ceramic bowl, so every time they take steps, at least at the beginning of the sequence, you can hear the clack, clack, clack of them walking on ceramic, which I noticed right away. I was like, that is beautiful sound design. That you realize that they are not on a road, that they're on a ceramic bowl, and you're giving me that sound that makes me feel like that, and I love that. And the whole animation design of this film is gorgeous, and it reminds me of like Who Framed Roger Rabbit and the original Mary Poppins, and I miss that. I miss that 2D animation to live action mix. We get a lot of just CGI cartoons now, and while I love the Pixar films and a lot of the cartoons that are out today, that was a nice throwback that I didn't realize how much I missed it until I actually got to see it. Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, they do a real good job of mixing that, and I loved it in that, but none of that's live action. That's 100% cartoon. This one had a beautiful mix of it. And they have two song numbers while in the bowl, and one of them I call the Supercalifragilisticexpialidocious song because this whole song they're just singing long words, and I'm like, okay, this is basically their rendition of doing that song for this film. It's not necessarily a memorable one, but it's definitely an enjoyable one for the most part. But then there's this big number with Lin-Manuel Miranda and Emily Blunt, where they're on a stage and they got all these cartoon characters, and it's talking about stories in a book. It is easily the best part of the film. It's a highlight. It is amazing. The musical sequence from Emily Blunt and Lin-Manuel Miranda in that is astounding. How amazing this sequence is. It is a highlight of the year. And it's a scene. If you don't even care about seeing this movie, you need to see this sequence because this sequence is a fantastic sequence. But that's kind of it. They like I said, the songs. I remember the songs about books and a story, but I couldn't for the life tell you anything about the songs except for that. But I remember how amazing the sequence was. The first song that she sings with the kids is about taking a bath, and it turns into basically an underwater adventure. Looks gorgeous. Could not remember the words of the lyrics of that song for the life of me. There's a beautiful song about loss, which is the song that's in the trailer, sung beautifully by Emily Blunt. It's a great song with great message. Can't remember the lines, but I remember the song because it was in the trailer. And that's kind of what it is throughout this film, is great to good songs, but I can't remember them, but the sequences I remember. And that's where the visuals are amazing in this film. Emily Blunt and Lin-Manuel Miranda, you can tell, are having a blast doing this film. They just can't help but smirk and smile whenever they're not delivering lines. You can just tell how much love and fun is going into these roles from both of them. And it makes you happy, and it makes you fun, and it makes you excited, because you're watching them do this, and you just see the excitement in them as they're performing these roles. Lin-Manuel, he's basically doing a Dick Van Dyke replacement. He still has he's better at the Cockney accent than Dick Van Dyke is from the original, but it's still not great. And he's just kind of there to be the sidekick of Mary Poppins. This is Emily Blunt's show. Emily Blunt is a force to be reckoned with in this. I was wondering how she was going to be able to handle the Mary Poppins role, since, like I said, this was a role that shouldn't be touched because of Julie Andrews. She does an amazing job of capturing Andrews' Mary Poppins character while still doing it different and making it her own. She's a little more sassier. She's a little more vain than Mary Poppins. And she's a little more strict and kind of not necessarily bitchy, but she's not afraid to kind of just be rude in a sense. But she makes it her own, to the point where not once in the film, except for maybe the first 5 minutes, because it was the first 5 minutes, did I ever think, oh, the old Mary Poppins was better. No, Emily Blunt took this, she made it her own, she is Mary Poppins now. And she was the perfect person to take over the reins from Julie Andrews, and I couldn't see anyone else do this role. And if they decide to do more films, I'll check it out, because I want to see Emily Blunt's performance. She's already gotten a Golden Globe nomination for this. I wish she would have gotten the nominations for A Quiet Place, because I think that performance was so powerful. But as long as she wins something and gets the nominations and recognition she deserves for either one of these roles, I'm happy. And it looks like she is with this Mary Poppins role, so good for her. The rest of the cast is very good as well. Ben Whishaw, he's not going to get as much recognition as he should, but he does a great job as Michael Banks. He's kind of the heart of the story, because he has to carry a lot of the heavy weight of emotion in the story because of the loss of his wife and the serious situations that he's in, because he's about to lose the house, and him and his family are about to get kicked out of their family home. And he carries that weight very well. And there's a few scenes where you can just tell he is killing it over everyone else, because Emily Blunt, she's got to stay in that Mary Poppins demeanor. She can't really do anything outside of the Mary Poppinsness. So Ben Whishaw, he's got to kind of carry the whole dramatic part of the role, because as much as I love Emily Mortimer, she's just kind of there to be joyful. And as much as I like her, I'm happy to see her. I like her in the film. She's not given anything to do in this movie, except for kind of just being there because she's the other child from the first film, so she's got to be there. They give her kind of a small story arc that she's kind of this rebellious, independent woman, kind of like the mother is in the first film, but they don't do anything with it. It's just kind of like this is what she's doing in her meantime. They try to force I'll get back. I'll wait for that until I get to the bad in the movie. But yeah, as much as I love Emily Mortimer as an actress, she's really given nothing in the role but to just react to Ben Wishaw's character and to react to Mary Poppins and what's all going on around her. She's not really given anything to do personally in the actual film, but react. And that's a negative, and I wish they would have given her more to actually do. The kids are good in their roles. One kid in particular I'm going to talk about a little bit later. But the two older children, the Annabelle played by Pixie Davies and John played by Nathaniel Schley, they both do great jobs. They have good back and forth with Emily Blunt. They have good back and forth with Lin-Manuel and Ben Whishaw. They have good singing voices, and they definitely flow pretty good through the actual story themselves. Colin Firth's in it. He's good in the small role he has. Anyone who's seen the trailer sees Dick Van Dyke at the end of the trailer. He's good in his small little role, and he's a happy highlight, because obviously anyone who's a fan of the original is going to be happy to see him pop up on screen. And there's a couple other little cameos here and there. Meryl Streep's in it at one point. Not necessarily that her scene is really needed in the film, but if Meryl Streep wants to be in a movie, you're not going to say no to Meryl Streep. Her scene's good. She has a song. The song's alright, but the sequence of the song is really awesome. But they literally could have taken her scene out of the film, and the film would have been the exact same movie. Like I said, everyone in the movie's great. There's not really a bad actor in the bunch in the film, so everyone does a great job, with obviously Blunt and Winneshaw and Manuel being the kind of the tour de force of the top talent in the film. And like I said, the cartoon sequences are amazing. They're the highlights of the film. And like I said, you're gonna have fun watching it. It's like I said, delightful, enchanting, crowd pleasing. You're gonna have a good time. If you're not smiling, you're at least not bored for the most part while watching this film. So if you have to take kids to see it, you're not gonna have an awful time watching it. You're gonna be fine while watching this film. If you're not a fan of musicals, you might get tired of it by the end of the movie, because there's a lot of song numbers. But I think you'll still have a decent enough time. You probably won't watch it more than the initial time, but I think you'll be okay with it. Now, let's talk about the stuff that was bad about the movie. First things first, the youngest child, Georgie, played by Joel Dawson. This kid, excuse my language, is a creepy looking motherfucker. This kid, right from the first scene he pops in, I just had this weird vibe from the kid. He looks like he's going to be a serial killer. He's just got this, like, there's this one time where Ben Winshaw or Michael Banks is talking to the children. The two older kids, they're listening and they're fine, and he's just got this just like I'm gonna kill you look on his face, and the kid's just creepy. And it's just the whole time in the movie, whenever they focus on him, I was just uneasy. I might be the only person that feels this way, but that kid, that actor, it distracted me. That kid was just a nightmare to watch. He's not bad acting. Like, the acting wasn't bad. It was not anything well, a little bit. But it's just his look, like the way he had his hair set, the way his facial expressions were. The kid terrified me throughout the movie. Like, literally, he could be Pennywise's child. If they put him in clown makeup, put him in It 2, I would be terrified of this kid. That's how creepy this kid was giving me, the vibes. That's just me personally. A lot of people could watch it and just like, dude, the kid was fine. You're blown out of proportion. But for some reason, he gave me the willies throughout the entire film. The other problem, the movie is too damn long. It is 2 hours and 10 minutes. It goes probably about 20 minutes way too far. There's unnecessary musical numbers. Like I said, the Meryl Streep number, not needed. They have anyone who remembers the first film, they have that I can't remember the song per se, but it's the Chimney Sweeps song where they're all dancing on top of the roof. Lin-Manuel, he's not a chimney sweeper in this. He's a like a lamp lighter, where he goes around the streets and he lights the lamps, or he takes blows the fires out when it's daylight. So they decide, we had a chimney sweep song in the first film with a big number of a bunch of dancers, so we got to have a lighters song. And while the dance number is huge, we're at this point already like at an hour 45, hour 50 in the film, and we just need to get the story going. We need to get to the end point. And they have a super 5 to 10 minute long musical number about these lighters. It's not relevant to the story. It's not needed. It slows down the movie. Then they add like BMX bike tricks into it. It's like, this is 1930s. These bike people on bikes should not be going up ramps and doing spins and stuff like that. Takes you completely out of it. While it's good to look at, the number's horrible, and there's other little numbers here or there that they could have just pulled out that were not necessary that really make the movie drag. They add a climactic action sequence at the end of the film to kind of add like some intensity to the end, which was also completely unnecessary because you have someone who's Mary Poppins that literally can be a magical superhero. And this action sequence, people are almost dying in this sequence. Like, there are certain points where it's like, these people could actually die. And she's just sitting there just chilling, just watching them do it. And then after, like, a while, she's just like, you guys are taking too long. And she just flies up and does it herself. It took you 2 seconds to do that. Why did you watch these people try to kill themselves for 5-something minutes when you could have just done it yourself? It was just kind of like a messed up thing to do. Like, if they had fallen and died, like, that's on you, Mary Poppins. It was an unnecessary action sequence that wasn't needed for the film. And it was just because they needed to have some more higher stakes in the movie. And, like I said, unnecessary. They have a forced villain subplot in the film that does not work. It's not given enough meat in the movie to really have any relevance. And there's not really a big point to it. And there's no real information to back why this person is this way. And it gets tied up into a little bow at the end, to the point where it's like, you could have had the same character not been a villain, and you still could have done the same things, except for that climactic action. Well, you probably still could have done the action sequence, but you didn't have to have this person be a villain. There was no reason for it. And so it kind of just felt cheap to throw a villain in, just so that way there's some give and go in the film. But they're already up against a clock because they got to pay this money in 5 days. You don't need an actual villain to add on top of the layer. So it's just unnecessary stuff, just like a lot of the parts in the actual film. There's just, like I said, there's Emily Mortimer's wasted in the role. And then you got I have my notes here trying to pull them up. They also try to force a relationship subplot with Emily Mortimer's character. I'm not going to say with who, but literally the chemistry is forced on there. The person that they're trying to force it with, there's literally no build-up to this, and then all of a sudden they have one scene together, and then it's like, oh, well, they gotta be in a relationship, or we gotta push this relationship towards. Once again, it's unneeded. They just had to give something for Emily Mortimer to do, and frankly, she has more chemistry with Ben Whishaw, her brother, which was kind of creepy, because I'm sorry, watching the movie, they didn't feel like a brother and sister. They felt like a husband and wife kind of relationship, which was kind of a weird thing while watching it. So they forced a relationship subplot that was also not needed. And it's just, that was kind of the problem with a lot of movies. There's a lot of unneeded stuff added into the film that made the movie run way too long. It started to drag, and that's going to be a big problem with a lot of kids. Is you're going to have these kids go into the movie, and you're going to have them sit there for over 2 hours, and with musical number after musical number, and then you got these little beats in the middle that are just going to drag, that they're not going to understand, and it's going to be hard to keep those kids in those seats. And for me, it was just like, all right, come on, let's get to the end of this movie. And then you had this big bombastic ending sequence, this big ending musical number, which for the most part was fine, but it's a little over the top. It's a little too musical-like for my take, but the actual initial ending after that is where I had an initial problem with. I can't really go into it without being spoilery about it, but you guys can, ask for it in the comments and I'll gladly explain it to you, but I just didn't like how the movie initially itself ended. I think they could have done that better. I think they could have had a little more weight to it. If there's this one point where you thought it was going to be this, and it ended up being nothing, and then the ending part of the actual film itself was just kind of like, they could have done that better, and that's kind of the bad. So like I said, it's uneven. There's a lot of good, there's a lot of bad. You're gonna enjoy it. You might not notice these things that I had a problem with. You might notice all of them. But, like I said, at the end of the day, you're going to have fun watching the movie for the most part, especially if you like musicals. If you're a fan of Mary Poppins, for the most part, you're going to love this film. If you love old school Disney musicals, you're going to love this film. If you're looking for a happy, fun holiday film with the family, you're probably going to love this film. Like I said, I'm glad I watched it, mainly because I love the performance of Emily Blunt. But is it something that I'm going to watch multiple times? No. But I probably will try to see if I would watch that cartoon sequence halfway through the film multiple times, because, like I said, it's amazing. And it's one of the best scenes of the year. And that's kind of the long and short of it, of this long-winded review. I apologize for it being as long as it is. But there was just a lot of stuff to unload on this movie. And so I hope you guys like this review. I hope it helps you in your opinion of the film. Kind of gives you an idea of what to watch out for when the movie comes out. And I hope hope you guys enjoy it. I don't want you guys to go to a movie and hate it. This is kind of more for the people who are like, should I see it or should I not see it? That's my opinion. Take it or leave it. Everyone's opinions are open. No one's right. No one's wrong. That's just your opinion. And so while I thought it was a delightful film and I enjoyed it, it's not something that I would really go back to and rewatch. I don't think it's going to last in 50 years. Are we going to be talking about Mary Poppins Returns? I don't think so. I think we'll probably still be talking about the original Mary Poppins. Unless they make this into a franchise and they keep doing more films, then yes, people will still be talking about it. But that's about it. I hope you guys enjoyed the review. Like I said, feel free to give this a like and share. And if, like I said, leave comments below if you guys have any comments about this, or you can leave it on the Facebook page at Sean's Movie Crusades. And like I said, if you guys have any recommendations for movies you would like to have reviewed, leave it in the comments as well. Like I said, we got some more reviews coming in the following week. We got Aquaman, we got Bumblebee, trying to catch some other movies that I haven't seen throughout the year that I'm going to start posting. We also got Best Movies of the Year coming up right at the end of the year or maybe the first week of the new year. Top 5 most disappointing films of the year, top 5 most surprising films of the year. So we got a lot of video content coming down the road here in the next week or two. So don't forget to hit that subscribe button on here and on the Facebook page, so that way you guys are kept up to date. And until next time, good morning, good afternoon, and good night, Movie Crusaders.